Based on TV's hottest real-life adventure show on CBS. It's a bit specific, playing not just to survive the game, but to survive each other. I'm in. Have you ever been watching Survivor and thought, damn, I wish this was a board game for 4 to 8 players? You're in luck. Today, we're looking at the Survivor board game. We'll go through the rules, learn how to play, and see if it's worth... How much did I spend on this again? That's an investment I'm not making back. Unless you like and subscribe, that is. Now we are specifically looking at what Amazon refers to as Survivor Outwit Outlast game. I guess Mattel couldn't afford the Outplay license? As far as I'm aware, there are 2 other tabletop Survivor games. One being a card game based on the Australian Outback and the other being a party game released in 2003. If there's enough demand, I'll happily look at those as well. They only cost... Look, I'm a man of my word, if there's enough demand, I'm not above fiscal irresponsibility. So what comes included in a Survivor the board game? Well, first we have the entire island of Paluatiga, represented by this green plastic mold. There's a wee tribal council set with steps and everything, how cool! We've got the game board split into 2 sections that goes around the island, 168 game cards divided into Outwit, Outplay and Outlast. We'll go over what these cards do when we get to playing. They fit in the board here and even come with little covers so you can't read them before you're meant to. It's not much, but we won't find many times to praise the game here, so we'll take what we can get. We've also got 2 scoring reference cards for when games inevitably turn into arguments about some arbitrary rule. There's an immunity idol, not hidden, it slots in nicely at Tribal Council. 8 of these erasable voting cards, as well as a pen that will dry out way quicker than anyone would deem reasonable. 2 team play movers and their associated stands. This board game goes pretty deep with its references, so let me know in the comments if you remember what season these tribes were from. We've also got 8 individual movers, of course referencing that time Survivor Thailand merged with only 8 players left in the game. We've got all your favourite castaways too. Red, orange, yellow, green, green again, blue, blue again, and purple, the gang's all here. There are 35 survival item cards which you'd think would be important, but I promise will only come up 2 or 3 times the entire game. These are Map to the Water Well, Rice, Machete, First Aid Kit, Swimming Gear, Tools, and Treasure Chest, which can be used as a wild card if you're missing the item you need. Last, we have what the instruction book refers to as a special die. What's so special about this die? Did Jeff Probst make it himself? Notably, the game demands you have scrap paper and pencils. It is necessary to play, and they are not provided. Mattel can afford the special die, but putting some paper and pencils in the box? No. Once we have our board set up, we're ready to begin the marooning. On top of the scrap paper and pencils, Mattel also failed to include 3 to 7 friends that would like to play the Survivor board game with me. Based on definitely not my own personal experience, playing the Survivor board game by yourself and pretending you're playing with other people is quite sad. It also makes your flatmates worried about your well-being, so I do recommend finding those people to play with. The game is split into 2 portions, pre-merge and post-merge. Now convention does dictate we begin with the pre-merge, but I'll switch it up if you will. If you're playing with people who aren't as big of a Survivor fan as you are, and you are watching a video reviewing the Survivor board game, so I do expect this to be the case, don't worry, there is no advantage to be found here. In real life, however, it's a massive advantage and people love when you talk about Survivor at them. There's also no advantage in one team having more players than the other, so if you have 4 friends who really want to play the Survivor board game with you, don't worry, it will continue to function. Also, can I join please? Now that that disaster has been averted, divide yourselves into Tagi and Pagong, deal 3 survival items to each team, and you're ready to play. In the pre-merge, each team takes turns rolling the special die and takes their mover around the blue outer area of the board. You land on either an Outwit space of which there are 10, an Outplay space of which there are 12, and an Outlast space of which there are 8, as well as the End space, totaling 31 spaces in the pre-merge. Assuming an average roll of 3.5, this should take around 8 or 9 turns. Let's say we land on an Outwit space. Whoever rolled the special die draws a card from the Outwit pile. These cards are all about using your brain to solve a tricky puzzle. Well, I guess technically it's the other team using their brain to solve the puzzle, you just kind of facilitate it happening while begging them not to get it right. There are 2 types of Outwit cards. First is the Riddle card. Read a riddle to the other team. If they get it right, they get 3 survival items. If they get it wrong, you get 3 survival items. These sure are something. A warrior in the field. I carry my sword. I prefer others to yield, lest my life be ignored. Did you guess a bee in one guess? If so, you've probably played this before. Have there even been bees on Survivor? How about this one? I can be made, I can be broken. My resolve is the strongest when I am spoken. That one is a promise. At least that's tangentially related to Survivor. Unlike a bee, you may also draw a walk the plank card. There are 3 clues on them. Read them one at a time. If the other team gets it in 1, they get 3 survival items. If they get it in 2, they get 2 survival items. Getting it in 3 yields 1 survival item, and not getting it yields your team 3 survival items. Here's a walk the plank example. I promise I'm not paraphrasing this. Some say I look like a baboon. Asia is the primary home for me and my troop. I carry extra food in pockets in my cheeks. Yes, that misspelling is on the card. Also, it's a macaque monkey. The closest these get to being Survivor related is that one of the answers is Borneo. I get what they were going for with the Outwit cards. Riddle is testing your creative reasoning skills while Walk the Plank is more trivia based, but now that I've read all the cards, no one will play the Survivor board game with me. Not that they would anyway, but it does seem a bit limiting. But what if you land on Outplay instead? First up is Know Thy Neighbor. The player who rolled the special die answers a question in private, and their team needs to guess the answer for 3 survival items. No penalty for incorrect guesses beyond not getting the survival items. One such Know Thy Neighbor? The wild animal I'm most like to be. A. Cheetah. B. Tiger. C. Monkey. Another Know Thy Neighbor? My plane crashed in the mountains. In order to survive, I may have to eat the deceased passengers. I'm most likely to think, no way, maybe, I'll do it. Hey Mattel, what? Leave your answers in the comments below, I guess. Outplay may also yield an SOS card. This is the only real head-to-head competition in the pre-merge. One player rolls the special die and 2 players from each team have to draw that item corresponding to that number on the card. First team to get it right wins 3 survival items. It's quite literally just Pictionary, but at least we're playing a competitive team game for once. Now tell me, how would you draw any of these? There's also no time limit. I have seen rounds go for 10 minutes before. Finally, we have the Outlast square. Remember those survival items you've been cultivating all this time, hoarding like firewood in the Amazonian jungle? Well, you draw an Outlast card and hope. We do the rain dance with a bit too much enthusiasm. It storms for 2 nights, give back 1 survival item. We cheated in the swimming challenge, give the other team 2 survival items. Sometimes we even get to use our survival items. Our special island curry dinner is extra spicy. If we have a map to the water well, put out the fires on our tongue and pick up 3 survival items. It doesn't actually say anywhere in the instructions if you discard survival items after use, but I think it makes sense. And that's the pre-merge. Roll the special die, advance around the board, solve riddles, know thy neighbor, collect survival items. Until at last, one tribe reaches the end of the pre-merge. The first tribe that does that gets to take 1 item each from the losing tribe. Then each tribe shuffles their survival items and distributes them amongst their castaways. And
drop your buffs. Yes! Because we are merged.
We move into the inner board now and take turns rolling the special die individually. The spaces are the same, except there are now 5 Outwit spaces, 5 Outplay spaces, 4 Outlast spaces, and the end space, totaling 15 spaces this time. That may seem small, but fear not. We do not just make one trip around this board, but I'm getting ahead of myself. In the post modes, we're no longer fighting for survival items, we're fighting for immunity, which is granted to whoever reaches Tribal Council first. So roll the special die, move the man, land on Outwit, and make sure you're reading the bade side of every card from now on. It's Riddle time, Batman. Riddles function the same as before. Whoever rolled the special die reads it aloud, but whoever guesses it right first moves 3 spaces, and if no one guesses it right, you move forward 3 spaces. What flies when it's born, lies when it's alive, and runs when it's dead. If you said snowflake, good job. If you said pterodactyl who can't tell the truth which was eventually turned into petrol to power my Toyota Yaris, what's wrong with you? Walk the plank is similar. Read the 3 clues. If another player gets it right on the first clue, forward 3 spaces. Second clue, forward 2 spaces. Third clue, forward 1 space. No one gets it right, reader moves forward 3 spaces. However, this one doesn't have a first person to get it right mechanic. So if you know a cheetah is the fastest mammal on Earth and guess it, then everyone moves forward 3 spaces because they'll all guess the same answer. This is a good place to point out that Mattel says if the rules aren't clear, make it up. That's a sign of a good game. Moving on to the Outplay cards, Know Thy Neighbor is the same secret guessing game, but you move forward once for every person who matches you, and everyone who matches you also moves forward 1 space. If I could send just 1 letter from a deserted island, I'd send it to A. My family, B. My lover, C. My friends. How about the Coast Guard to come rescue me? Hello? Or my subscribers so they don't think I abandoned them? SOS is once again Pictionary, but only 1 person draws, and whoever guesses it right moves forward 3 spaces, as well as the person drawing. Because there's no time limit, the person drawing will always move forward 3 spaces. Which also means this may take literal minutes, unless you can draw the Mediterranean Sea. Here's my interpretation. The Outlast cards are still random luck, but this time really designed to get you moving, either forwards or backwards. I won first place in my Island Talent Show, advanced my move of 4 places. Bro, that is a quarter of the board. I break the alliance at Tribal Council by voting differently. Move back 1 space. You can tell this is a 2001 Survivor board game. Speaking of Tribal Council, the first player to make it to the end of the board wins the immunity idol, and becomes the Tribal Council chief as the game puts it. Not only are they immune from the vote, but they also break any and all ties. I'm like 95% sure they used to call Chief Jeff back in Survivor Borneo, and if they didn't, they definitely did in Mark Burnett's book. So this chief thing may be a Survivor reference? Mattel hasn't given me many reasons to keep hope alive. Now everyone uses the 1 whiteboard marker to cast their vote for who they want out of the game. You can try and form alliances, but unless someone is weak enough to go to the bathroom during the game, you'll be hard pressed to find time to actually get them going. Once the votes are cast, the Tribal Council chief reveals the votes 1 by 1 and that player is gone. Eliminated from the game. The first member of our jury, they straight up do not get to play anymore. This breaks one of the fundamental rules of board game design. Don't kick players out of the game. Don't force the losing players to go make a coffee or something while everyone else goes on to have fun and enjoy the masterpiece that is the Survivor board game. Is it in the spirit of Survivor? Yeah. Is it good board game design? Absolutely not. And now, we do it again. We repeat the post-merge phase, racing around the board, vying for immunity, voting someone out, sending them to the jury, and doing it again. This will go on until the final jury member has been voted out and there are 2 players left. The jury can ask questions if they want, and big enough Survivor fans will probably make a whole show and dance of Final Tribal Council. But most people at this point in time are more than ready for the game to be over. The first jury member may not have been involved in the game for 4 rounds. So here's a recreation of how Final Tribal usually goes. Ahem. Oh yeah, I'll vote Tim. Yeah, me too. Yep. Cool, game over Tim, you win. But hey, if you're Tim, and statistically one of you might be, good job winning the Survivor board game. But now for the $1 million question. Is the game fun? There are 2 ways to answer this. Is this a fun, competitive board game? No. If you want to play a competitive board game, don't pick one that relies on rolling dice and drawing cards. That includes Catan. All my homies hate Catan. So don't view this as a competition, view it as a story. Weirdly enough, the best comparison I can make is Betrayal at the House on the Hill. That's also a game of rolling special dice and events just sort of happening, but it's also telling a story, with a fun atmosphere, with your friends, who may get kicked out of the game for basically no reason. Viewing it that way, this might be the funniest board game I've ever played. That frustration when your friends don't recognize you're obviously drawing the South Pole. The indignation as your friends don't realize you'd obviously tell a messy tent mate to clean up their half. The triumph of randomly having 5 maps to the water well and pulling an Outlast card that calls for it. It's just dumb fun. I don't have many real life friends who are Survivor fans. I don't have many real life friends, but all of the ones that I've played with wanted to play this again, mainly because they found it stupid and fun. Right up until the merds, that is. Then things can get messy. You better have some Sudoku or something for your jury members to play.
I'm good at Sudoku.
Sudoku, pay attention.
Do you have a petty friend group that holds grudges? This may not be the game for you. Or it may be. That does sound kind of funny. With the right group of people, this game can be a lot of fun. But don't spend 140 New Zealand dollars on it. I found this in a Canadian thrift store for $8 once. But then I thought it wouldn't fit in my suitcase, so I decided to leave it in Canada. Then I got home and had to spend $140 on it. Damn it. Until next time, I've been Henry Hickman Survivor, and I'll see you after I roll my special die.